We are back. Welcome to Net Worth. We've done Dallas. We've done Philly. I had to go down to DC, the DMV. I had to go down to them Washington Commanders. I got the hashtag wrong. I apologize. But I got some of the biggest Commanders fans in the building, some of the best creators. You guys know them all. It's household names, as I know, because as I was going through it, you guys were tagging these guys left and right. Before we get into the episode, do all the things you're supposed to do, like, subscribe, comment, but really comment, interact with us, because we're going to talk everything Commanders, deep dive into this team, talk about players you're not even having on your radar yet. This is the pulse of what's going on with the team down in Washington, D.C. So before we get into the episode, I just want to let everyone introduce themselves. Doug, I'll let you go first. Rio up next. Louie after that. Thank you guys for coming on. I just first want to ask you, Doug, how the hell did you get started in just a mega fan and how this all started? Give me the origin of how the fans came to know you as one of the voices of the team.
Well, I guess maybe during COVID, I think there were a lot of fan podcasts that popped up. We had nothing to do. I was talking to my brother on the phone every day about the team, and he said, you got to do a podcast. And I thought he was crazy at the time. But, we just got into it and started with Big Douglas Show. Now it's the Big Doug and Carmi Show. We're very lucky to have guests from all over the football world stop by and chop it up with us. And I always say we kind of wanted our own radio show. We weren't going to get on the radio, so we brought the radio to us, and that's kind of what we do with shows on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for about a half hour.
No, I love it. Rio.
What's going on, man? I'm Rio Robinson. I'm from Northern Virginia. My whole family's from the city, Washington, D.C., Chocolate City. I didn't have a choice in the matter of what team I was going to root for growing up. I was born into burgundy and gold culture. Unfortunately, I'm just kidding. I love this team. We've been through a lot here, and in my almost 33 years of life, it's just the loyalty and fandom that runs in my blood that keeps me in it. I started content creation back in 2021, watching guys like Louie Tee, watching Big Douglas, always wanting to create my own platform because I have so many things to say, and I'm always letting my thumbs fly on Commanders, formerly Redskins, Twitter. But one day I decided to get going, and we're 3 years into the game now. I have a lot of things to say. I'm a rambler. My show's called Rambling with Rio because we never run out of things to talk about when it comes to this football team. I have the sickness, and this team has a stranglehold on me for life.
I love it. Louie Tee, I guess the OG Louie Tee coming up next.
Yeah, so I'm Louie Tee, host of the Louie Tee Network, man. I feel like the elder statesman now. You start to see the little gray in my beard. I've been doing this for over a decade. I started back in 2012 when there was, it really was no one on YouTube in this space doing this. And it's amazing to see how the space has grown and so many creators have come along that are doing a great job covering the team. But for myself, I always wanted to do this. I had come up with and put together a show that I was going to pitch to the NFL Network. Like I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And then I realized as I got into it, like the new media is right here. Like television isn't where it's at. It's here, right here on YouTube. Absolutely. Where I can be my own boss. I can make my own rules and I can do whatever I want and not have somebody tell me how to do what it is I do. And so I've been covering the entire NFL since 2012, but obviously I'm a Commanders fan by trade. Unlike Rio, who grew up around Commanders fans, I grew up in a house full of Cowboys fans. So I was a lone soldier, rocking the burgundy and gold, repping the Redskins, now Commanders. And I've been fighting this fight for a long time. And I love the direction that the team is going in. Never thought we'd see the day when Daniel Snyder was no longer the owner. So, man, we are really blessed right now. It's been a blissful offseason, and we can't wait to get this thing started come September 8th.
All right, I got to ask the first question because you all mentioned it, the Redskins versus Commanders. Mm-hmm. It is one of the biggest overhauls in franchise history. I didn't know what the hashtag was. I played in the stadium. I'd been there 10, 15 times. I know the atmosphere. I've seen the highs and I've seen the lows. So Rio, let's start with you on it.
Let's get it.
How does a fan base feel about the change of the new team? Like, we're fully bought in, or are we still like? I go on Twitter all the time, or X, now formerly Twitter. See, I just did it right there. Mm-hmm. How are we feeling about the name change? It's sticking. Obviously, we're not going back, but are we like all the way bought in?
See, what you're not going to find in such a starving fan base is a consensus. It's all over the place. Me personally, I'm in the crowd where just call them winners and you can call this football team whatever you want to call them. Keep the colors, change the uniforms, do whatever you need to do. But then there's most people who are dying for a rebrand. There's the delusional crowd who still thinks the old name can return. And then there's the Dan Snyder picked the name and we want everything Dan Snyder touched on this organization erased. Like his whole existence. And we're talking about 3 names over the last 4 years. Our stadium is on its 3rd name. We're no longer FedEx. We had a month of Commanders Field, and we are now, as of this morning, Northwest Federal Stadium. You know, it's always new. New ownership, new name, new stadium name, 30 new players, new franchise quarterback, new coaching staff, and finally a new GM. It's all new, and I'm here for all of it because I've seen not much success at all in my lifetime as a fan.
They'll be one to go forever at Commanders Field, Rio. Want to know forever.
Yeah, that's right.
Never lost.
Undefeated forever. But it does feel like from a outsider looking in that there is this closing of the Dan Snyder era. And I know like maybe he did pick out the name, but it does feel like the new name is coming with the new ownership. All those things that kind of roll into it. When you go from a polarizing figure like Dan Snyder to now Josh Harris and more of maybe that private equity money, there was an approval today that now private equity firms can start coming in and a guy who made his money in business. How does that feel as a fan now that we have this influx of cash? We're doing things differently. Doug, I'll let you take this one. Like, how does that one really sit with the fan base? Hey, again, I love the point you made about call us winners, call us whatever you want, as long as we're winning. But how does that feel knowing there's like this end of this chapter and you're starting anew?
Well, they put $75 million into the stadium this year, so it's not that they're not trying to improve, while they also know they're not going to be there forever. So that's an interesting thing. The other thing is, you know, it was odd when we got Dan Snyder as the owner. He was the young gunner, and he was a local guy, and he was a fan of the team. It's big money with Harris, but he grew up a Redskins fan. And so he gets how important it is to have that team come back. And when you hear him at press conferences, you can tell he's excited. He wants a winner. And I think that part has permeated through the fan base. I'm with Rio. The name change, people are going to always want it because they hate Commanders. I think they hate it more because they assume that Dan picked it. Because listen, it could have been Washington football team. They could have kept it that way, and I would have been fine with that. And I think now, in retrospect, there are a lot of people that would go back to that. But as far as the ownership change, I think people are excited for sure.
Louie Tee, I know you were jumping in on it because you had said Redskins to Commanders, so I know you definitely have thoughts. Give me your thoughts on this new chapter. Maybe talk about the old a little bit and then get to the new, because it does feel like there's a lot of energy, and other fan bases I'm talking to, they're feeling your guys' energy. So I'm excited to get your take there.
They better.
Man, again, I said this earlier. We didn't know we were going to be here, right? There was a point in time where we thought that we were stuck in the existence of Daniel Snyder as the owner for eternity, right? To get to where we got to last July 20th and have the ownership of the team transfer over to Josh Harris and his group, it was like the black cloud finally left from over the organization as a whole. And to see the dramatic changes that have been made from top to bottom. I mean, you still got players who were here before trashing the organization, and they're not wrong. Like Montez Sweat this morning, I saw an article where he was talking about how it was a toxic environment and guys didn't care if they won or lost. And, you know, it rubs off on everyone. And that started from the top. You know, this organization was poorly run, and guys like Antonio Gibson have talked about it. He's in New England now. And that's the way it was. And to see now with Harris coming in and that group and seeing the process that they went through to hire Adam Peters and then bringing in all of the different coaching staff members and filling out the front office and kind of turning this thing around, as Rio talked about, we got the highest turnover rate in terms of rosters in the NFL. It's a totally different organization. Like, I can't begin to explain to you the excitement that this fan base feels, because we didn't think we would be in this type of position. And now when you see all of the pieces kind of starting to fit into the puzzle, and now you got a quarterback that you think can be the franchise guy, and you're starting to build this the right way, we're looking for sustainability. And Josh Harris talked about that the other day. He's not looking to have that flash in the pan season. That's all we used to hope for as Commanders fans. Like one season, you catch lightning in the bottle, win 10 games, you backdoor your way in after winning 5 straight late in the season, get a wild card. Maybe you win the division if the division is down, and maybe you win a playoff game. We haven't won a playoff game since 2005, right? So it's always been win 1 game here, win 3 games here, lose 4 games. Now we're trying to build a consistent winner year in and year out. I call it a triple P. Perennial playoff participant. That's what we're trying to become, and they're laying the foundation for that right now.
You mentioned a date, July 20th. Is that like, are we making that the July 4th for the Commanders? Like this is like the date that we're going to celebrate every single year. It's like
that is literally our Independence Day.
It is.
That is
I
our
love it.
Independence
I love it.
Day.
All right, July 20th, we're doing our own little parade. We're doing our own parties. I mean, look, it's not that far off from the 4th anyways. Any leftover fireworks, we're going to light them off around.
We can use them.
Oh, we celebrated when that guy got out of town. We went to the bullpen by Nats Park. Josh Harris bought drinks for everybody there. There was multiple events. Like, it was a real celebration. It was an extravaganza in the DMV.
Absolutely.
Buy Dan beers.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
The Buy Dan beer. I still got a can in here somewhere.
That is unbelievable. I mean, look, now I'm gonna be traveling down that time of year right now and getting it on. Well, so it really seems like there is this energy about the team, the culture that's coming in. The NFLPA comes out with report cards every year, and the Commanders, you guys know, you're laughing already. It's always been down towards the bottom, but hey, now as things are getting rebuilt, look, I can tell you, I was in those locker rooms. There was times we were using trash cans as hot tubs and baby pools as cool tubs after the game. I don't know if I'm playing or not this year, but I'll be excited to see the type of renovations you're making, and then, new stadiums, new facilities as those things pop up. There is a lot of positive momentum. But first, do you guys want to touch on last year at all? 4-13, second to last in the NFL. I guess we have to just touch on it a little bit. I mean, and Rio, I'll let you go first here. We'll just quickly touch on it because I just get the sense of like, we're done. Like that was kind of part of closing the chapter. I played you guys last year. You threw the ball a lot of turnovers. D-line was great.
I'm pretty sure we did.
So Rio, I'll let you take that one. And then whoever else wants to jump in, or if we can just close that chapter and move on to what's ahead if you guys want.
The 2023 Washington Commanders. See, it's important that we do touch on this before we talk about the new, because we're not here without last year.
That's right.
We had to bottom out. If there's one thing Doug knows, Lou knows, and Washington Commanders Nation knows, is Ron Rivera is going to get his way to a middling 7-win season. That was the nightmare fuel for last year. So going into the season, we all know everybody there is in a lame duck situation. New ownership's going to give you your year evaluation, and then they're done with you. Just please be good or please be bad. And boy, were we bad. We won our first 2 games and finished 4-13 last year.
Right. Were you nervous about those first 2 wins? You're like, oh no, don't let us be this good. Or were you actually optimistic?
The first 2 wins made me feel like, we 2-0 for the first time in like 12 years. Yeah. Oh, we might do something this year. Yeah. And then you get humbled real fast as a Washington fan. We don't like nice things. We don't have nice things for long. So you adjust. And then you get to a point of the season where you lose 8 straight. And at that point, you're like, we need to keep losing. We need to keep losing. And we now have Jaden Daniels. We own the 2nd overall pick. We helped lure one of the hottest executives in the league in Adam Peters. We traded Chase midseason. We traded Sweat midseason. It all came together after the nasty season that we had in 2023. It had to happen for us to arrive here. It was hard to start rooting for losses, but it was a rough Christmas Eve when Jacoby Brissett almost lost us the 2nd pick versus the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium. But we pulled through, we lost out, and here we are in 2024 with a new look on life.
Just real quick, I think every
4-13 to get the number 2 pick.
Exactly. I think every fan base can really resonate with that as well. I mean, Louie Tee, how's it feel to be cheering for losses in December and January. That's never a good feeling.
It was some nasty work last year. I tell you, look, man. First of all, last year was the biggest bamboozle job I've ever been a part of as a fan. Eric Bieniemy sold us a dream and came in here and absolutely railroaded us. I mean, we had offensive linemen, and you being an offensive lineman, you can attest to this. We had an offensive lineman, Sam Cosme, after a game, beg the coordinator through the media to run the football, right? No offensive lineman wants to pass set 50 times a game, right? You want to go forward. You want to lower your pads on somebody. High hats every game, 50 times a game. We had a Bears game that we got destroyed in where we threw it 52 times in a row, right? This was Eric Bieniemy's doing last year. But as a whole, the team was awful. And, you know, it got to the point now where I'm like, just don't score 60 on us. You know, we got to some game, Thanksgiving. The Cowboys are throwing alley-oops in the Salvation Army bell, and they're fishing for turkey legs. Like, if they were playing the Eagles, would they have planted a turkey leg in the Salvation Army bell? No. They knew they were going to score 45. They knew they were going to be able to go get that turkey leg. The Dolphins came to town. We're putting rookie safeties on Tyreek Hill one-on-one. He takes 3 steps off the line of scrimmage. He's got his hand in the air. I'm open. Throw me the ball. Right? I mean, it was a disaster. Everybody was scoring 45 or more on us. And you just knew if this continues, we're going to get what we want. And that Jet game, as Rio said, that was the closest I've ever come to having a heart attack as a fan. Yep. Like, the football gods have not smiled down on us very often. Boy, were they smiling down on us that day, because it almost was an abject disaster. We could have been the Giants. Yep. We could have literally been the Giants and had to pass on the quarterback position as a whole this year because we would have been out of the top 3.
Thank you, Greg Zerline.
Yes. Thank you, Greg Zerline.
Well, you know what? I actually think this has become a venting session. Doug, I got to give you the stage next and let you bring us home here, because this is turning almost to a roast and a comedy session, and I'm enjoying it.
Bro, the franchise hasn't scored over 20 points, average over 20 points a game in something like 4 or 5 seasons at least. So if we can get over 20, not the bar you're trying to set, but that's what we've been used to. Ron was happy to win 17-13 in a league that's shooting for 40 every week.
You know what, too? Let me just say, hey to Tommy DeVito, because he was a part of the massacre late in the season.
Hero.
Hey, oh man!
Trust me, I was playing in that game, man. It's crazy. It's crazy how things can go. I mean, I had to go out there and try to block Jonathan Allen. I mean, there's some pieces on that team where you're like, I think he actually requested a trade. Yeah. He's like, get me off of this team or something along those lines.
Yeah, he had to be real to buy in by the new staff. You know, they had to let him know there's a plan now.
Yeah, it's a plan in place, and they won't call it a rebuild. They call it a recalibration.
Yeah, so we know what it is.
Yes, we all know what it is.
We can call it whatever we want, but we know what it is. Right. There is a glimmer in all of your eyes now, though, of like, hey, we endured. We went through it. We dealt with the lows. There was no highs to get us back up. It was just low. Your highs were more lows to take us lower to get out of it. And I feel for you guys. I was up in New York. We had our struggles. I grew up an Eagles fan. I grew up in Philadelphia. They never won a Super Bowl. And then as soon as I get to New York, they don't win a Super Bowl. So I've actually been in this middle ground of mediocrity, of trying to get out of it as well. So I definitely can feel your guys' pain. You mentioned the guy, Adam Peters, and going out and making a big splash move. You're bringing a new owner in Josh Harris that is ready to spend money. Could this actually, is that the best move of the offseason so far? I'm going to talk about some more key additions, but like from the top down, you know, you got ownership in place last year. Now getting Adam Peters. What do you like about what he's brought to the table? You mentioned some of the things he said. Louie Tee, I'll let you lead this one off and give me your thoughts on Adam, because you mentioned him already.
Without question, that's the biggest move of the offseason. That set the table for everything that has followed. And I'll call it the domino effect. So when you look at the hire of Adam Peters, that started a chain reaction of sorts. You don't get Dan Quinn without Adam Peters. You know, we haven't even touched on the thing that was crazy as fans. We all wanted Ben Johnson, right? That was the initial thing.
Yeah.
He was in the bag.
For Commanders fans, right? And that was a big whiff. And now looking back on it, it's the best thing that happened to us, not Adam Peters related, is that he's not our head coach because he wasn't the right man for the job. Dan Quinn is the absolute right man for the job. And you don't get Quinn without Adam Peters. And then you don't get some of the coaches that are here. You don't get Cliff Kingsbury without Dan Quinn. And you don't get, linebackers coach Ken Norton Jr. without Dan Quinn. And you don't get Bobby Wagner without Ken Norton Jr. And so it's just this domino effect of all of these things transpiring. And it starts with Adam Peters. And he's the guy that gives us the most hope because we haven't, if you think about the trajectory of this team and how things have gone over the last 2 decades, we haven't actually had a real general manager. When Dan Snyder took over, Vinny Serrato was his right-hand man, but it really was Daniel Snyder picking the players and running around having fun and firing up Redskins 1 and signing all these guys to contracts. Yeah. Then the Shanahans came in and they brought Bruce Allen with them, right? And Bruce Allen ended up being the team president, but he was the de facto general manager. We got Scott McLuhan for this small little brief period of time, and Bruce Allen ran him out of town. And so we never really had a true general manager. Ronald Rivera came in and he brought in Martin Mayhew and Marty Herney, all of his Carolina cronies, and added Martin Mayhew to the mix. And it was a disaster. Like all of his draft picks are essentially gone from the roster from the 4 years that he was here. So we've got a real general manager, a guy that we really truly believe in, and we trust what he was able to help architect in San Francisco. And we can see that he's bringing a lot of those elements here. So by far and away, that was the biggest move of the offseason for sure.
Doug, so we're talking about San Francisco. I don't think you guys would mind being the San Francisco of the East. Now, talking to the other teams and giving you a little feedback on what those creators have said, they're trying to build their teams to beat San Francisco. Dallas is petrified of San Francisco. Philadelphia said effectively San Francisco ended their season last year. Mm-hmm. So I think we can all agree that if you guys became the San Fran of the East, that would be a good thing. Mm-hmm. There are a couple San Fran players out there that have been clamoring about contracts. I'm going to touch on 2 because one you guys know very well and one might actually happen. So I put a tweet out about Brandon Aiyuk. So let's touch on him first. You have Terry McLaurin, who's one of the youngest stars, very underrated because, as we've mentioned, the seasons haven't gone as well as you want, but one of the best players at his position. He had an ascending trajectory with Jaden Daniels. But you have a guy like Brandon Aiyuk sitting out there. He's mentioned he wants to play with Jaden. Now, I think there were some talks that maybe Jahan and that whole trade situation was initially focused out that way. Would you love to see a player like Brandon Aiyuk come in, or is that price tag now a little bit too high for you?
It feels like the price tag is a little too high. I'm not in the position for this team to be poo-pooing guys as good as Brandon Aiyuk, yeah. and I think he is that good. But this team, when the Eagles traded for A.J. Brown, they were in let's go get it mode. This team, to me, they can say whatever they want, isn't in go get it mode yet. So I don't know that they want to send the assets and then pay him. The receiver market's getting ready to go crazy. I think in the future, you're just going to see teams drafting receivers high every year so that you don't get into this $30, $35 million market. That being said, they are certainly light at the position. I mean, they would be better with an Aiyuk on the team. There's no doubt about that.
I mean, you look at it, you just go draft a kid that went to LSU or Ohio State, and you're going to have a bona fide star day one. So the Giants actually mentioned that on Hard Knocks about where the receiver market is going. You think a guy like Aiyuk could have got done for 28. Now he's probably over $30 million. So agreed, we'd love to have a player like him, but there was a left tackle that was in Washington for years.
Yeah, the left tackle gets me a little more excited.
And I will tell you, he will go down as one of the best, if not the best, to ever play the position.
Ever.
Mm-hmm. He's not happy. Ever. He's accrued I don't know how many millions of dollars in fines now because fines can't be rescinded. Mm-hmm. They're now going to be a few $1 million apart on a deal. Now it's a mega contract that he's searching for. But if Trent was available, I mean, I'm sure they're poking around. Rio, how would you feel about a reunion?
Oh, man, talking about Trent Williams. This makes me I get sad every time I see him on my TV screen because this is possibly the only gold jacket player I've ever seen this team draft. I love Trent Williams. That boy is going to be first ballot Hall of Fame.
No
and
question.
The way it ended here in DC is the most Dan Snyder, Bruce Allen shit you've ever heard in your life. They gaslit the fans, or at least Bruce Allen gaslit the fans and told us this man was missing out on offseason work because he got a cosmetic procedure. The guy had a cancerous lump in his head he was getting work on, and they made it out to be like he was going to get Botox. It was crazy. And this was the best player on the roster, and we ended up getting a bag of chips and a small canned soda for him. And it would be, you could erect a statue of Adam Peters if he was able to get Trent Williams to finish off and do his swan song here in DC. Fans would probably throw a parade for that as well, because that's the best player Washington has seen here in almost 30 years. So, but I don't think it's happening. I think San Francisco does not have a choice. With Aiyuk, they have options. And I think Aiyuk would take less than that market value to come to Washington because he actually wants to be here. He poo-pooed a $32 million a year contract from the New England Patriots. He said, I'm not interested in going to what they have there in Foxborough right now. I think if there was anyone that we could feasibly get here in DC, it's Brandon Aiyuk, but I don't think that can gets kicked till 2025. I think he plays out this final year with no deal or in San Francisco, and then maybe we can have that conversation again next offseason.
Louie Tee, how do you feel? I mean, if you had your pick, you're going big Trent too, right?
Of course. I mean, I agree with Rio that that's not happening, but absolutely, because you always lament the ones that got away, right? Yeah. We haven't had many gold jacket players over the last 2 decades, right? Let's just call it 25 years. I always like to say, because it makes it sound worse, I always say quarter of a century, right? So, since Snyder took over, a quarter of a century of just pure hell. And we had two guys, and both of them got run out of town, in Champ Bailey and Trent Williams. And so that one stings because he should have been here. And we know he's not going in as a commander, right? So it sucks the way that whole situation unfolded. And, with more responsible adults, even Ronald Rivera, I think, had a chance to smooth things over. And he came in and pissed away the last opportunity that we had by, instead of calling him first, he called Greg Olson to see if he wanted to play. It was a mess.
Trent, he had to earn it.
Yeah.
He had to earn it.
Same thing he told Brandon Sheriff, which is why he's no longer on our team as well. But that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is, I would love to see a reunion, but I know it's not going to happen. But with Aiyuk, just quickly, I don't know if I would love the idea of Aiyuk being here, but I don't know if I love the idea of him being on the same team with his best friend. Yeah. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. And also, I'm not interested in giving up the draft capital. As Big Doug said, the draft capital and having to pay. I'm more interested in a guy like T. Higgins, who will be available in free agency next year. So.
T. Higgins now, I mean, T. Higgins can make some plays, and I think that's a very, very good point. I know we're a little bit on a time crunch. You guys got a live stream. I can't wait to see that one. I'll tune in. We're talking about culture and how a guy like Trent Williams was a part of what made the team. He had that intimidation factor. I mean, I saw a clip the other day of they got into a fight with I think it was the Cleveland Browns, and Trent rolled in and hit a DB, and the whole team, It was just Trent and 15 dudes backed up. Like, he sets the tone. Mm-hmm. And when you would play the Commanders, you knew you were in for battle. You had Morgan Moses, you had Brandon Sheriff. Like, you had some dogs on that offensive line and that defensive line with Ryan Kerrigan and Brian Arakpo, and the list goes on and on. So it's always been trench heavy, but there's a guy setting the culture now, and we talked about him already, Dan Quinn. The perfect guy, Lou, you said, for this organization. Why is he the perfect guy for the organization in this day and age of everything that's going on? Why?
He's always talking about the brotherhood. Yeah. Right. The first 2 weeks that the players were here, they focused on nothing but creating relationships and bonds with one another. Forget about football. Let's learn who the guy next to you is. They purposefully put lockers of guys who don't play similar positions, different side of the football next to one another. So you've got, Bobby Wagner, future Hall of Fame, linebacker next to our rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels in the locker room, right? So everybody's getting to know one another. And I think it's that level of trust that you have in the staff. It's that level of, bonding that you have that's going to allow these guys to play for one another. And I think players understand when the coaching staff cares, right?
100%.
F.A. Obata told a story about last year when he broke his foot against the Giants. Matter of fact, that same game we were talking about earlier against the Giants at FedEx. Dan Quinn called him later on that night when he was getting surgery and checked on him to see if he was all right. Remember, Dan Quinn is the defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. He's got his own thing going on. He doesn't have to call F.A. Obata and check on him, but he did because he remembered F.A. coming to a camp back in 2016 when he was the coach of the Atlanta Falcons and, being in the IPP, the International Pathway Program. And it's stories like that show you who the man Dan Quinn is. And, the coach Dan Quinn, we know, is going to whip this defense into shape. We were the worst defense in football a season ago. So him and Joe Witt Jr. are going to come in here and change the culture. But it starts with Adam Peters and it trickles down to Dan Quinn. And he has set the tone with this team, with these players. And I think there's this belief that this can get done a lot sooner rather than later. And it really starts with Dan Quinn's ability to communicate to his players.
All right, so we talk about the defense. We feel pretty confident. I mean, you look at the depth chart. There's some guys. You got some dogs on this defense, and it's the defensive ends. We can kind of touch on the defensive ends, but interior, maybe you may have the best interior three with Jerzon Newton coming in. His health obviously a little bit out there, but linebacker core looks amazing. We feel good with Dan Quinn at the helm. Doug, I'm going to kick this one to you. We're going to go to the offensive side of the ball. We feel like the defense, we're sleeping good at night knowing that's our defense that we're taking out there. You bring in Cliff Kingsbury. I know Cliff very well. You bring in Bobby Johnson, offensive line coach from the New York Giants. You bring in Ashley Lynn. You have a complete overhaul, obviously, who has some of that 49ers connection as well, like we mentioned. Hopefully, he brings some of that little pizzazz in the run game that San Fran does so well. How are you feeling about Cliff Kingsbury? And then let's dive into how do we feel about this offense in 2024?
Well, Cliff's interesting because I think he, like Quinn, had learned something from their time off, went back and did some self-reflecting. You mentioned Anthony Lynn. I talked to Connor Orr from Sports Illustrated on the show last week, trying to figure out maybe what this offense would look like. And he said, let's think about Shanahan 2012 Redskins with the RPO game, hitting the middle, stretching it wide with a running quarterback. We've heard Ertz talk about 12 and 13 personnel on the team to be able to get Bates and send it into the game. So I think, and if you go back and look at Kingsbury's teams from Arizona, and you know this, Justin, they like to run the ball. This notion that they just spread you out and threw it all over the yard is not really what happened there. James Conner had some of the best years he's had when Cliff was there. So I like the idea of what Eckler, what Brian Robinson Jr., what Ertz, they said from camp, he's healthy and looking like he's back in Philadelphia again. If we get something like 2012 Redskins offense from the Shanahans, I think it could be exciting.
So is the strategy you think to me, run the ball, don't put Jaden in bad situations, play really good defense? We're not expecting, I think in this season to go win a Super Bowl. That's not expectations of the fan base. It's like, let's be competitive and be in that wild card conversation because it's wide ass open in the NFC. I mean, you look at last year. That's right. We were playing the Green Bay Packers and the winner of that game was in great standing to make the playoffs. Green Bay almost didn't make the playoffs. I tend to agree with you. People labeled Cliff Kingsbury in our offense as pretty boy football. And then we were going out there and perennially we were one of the top rushing teams. You know why? Because you got to account for the quarterback in a Cliff Kingsbury offense. We're going to play the whole entire field. And that puts a lot of pressure on the man of the hour, the most important man really in this entire franchise that we're about to mention. Jaden Daniels, number 2 overall pick. This franchise goes as he goes. And Rio, how does he go?
Most importantly, we have to protect him. So I do have a question for you before we talk about Jaden Daniel. Tell me about Bobby Johnson, because
I was just about to ask him.
I knew someone had to do it.
I was going to ask him.
I had to do it. We've got a lot of bad comments from Giants fans about Bobby Johnson. He seemed to get glowing endorsements coming from Buffalo. Was it personnel? Was it certain players weren't developing? Was it the fact that y'all had to shuffle the line around a lot? Why is Bobby Johnson coming into Washington getting such a bad rep as an offensive line coach?
We talked about this a little bit before we started. When you play in the NFC East and the markets that we're in, the expectation is so high. So if there is not a level of success, you are going to face the repercussions. Bobby Johnson came from Buffalo, where they were year in and year out. They were in the AFC Championship. They were running the ball like crazy. He got to New York. When you're down and you're losing in a game, no one looks good. Everyone's on the hot seat at any given time. So Bobby got and had to stand up for the offensive line at all times. There was, Evan Neal. You look at Evan Neal, he's not starting this year. Bobby was obviously involved in that situation where him and Evan Neal were trying to figure out, as he's starting, we drafted this guy 7th overall. So I think a lot of times Bobby gets the worst of it. We didn't produce. And if you don't produce, you lose your job. And if the head coach is going to still be there, then assistants are going to lose their job. And that's what happened in New York. I think you have to look at the totality of the body of work. And you look what Bobby Johnson has done throughout his entire career. I can tell you as a man, he was sleeping in the facility trying to get this thing figured out. I had real heart-to-heart conversations because I know how hard it is to lose and have to face consequences in New York City. And Bobby Johnson stood up there like a man and took it on the chin every time and stood up for the team. So as a man to man, nothing but respect for Bobby Johnson. Now, we didn't win games and the offensive line didn't play well. He lost his job. So he faced the ultimate in your profession, not in like the real world, of like getting the axe. And he's coming in with a chip on his shoulder. Cliff Kingsbury's got a chip on his shoulder. It seems to me, from what I'm hearing from you guys, that organization has a chip on his shoulder now to go out there and prove. The fan base has a chip on his shoulder. You back a dog up into a corner, man, he's going to come out swinging. So, like, I'm excited for what Bobby Johnson's going to go out there and do. Now, my fear is the talent on the offensive line. He can only do so much. So we talked about Trent. We would love to get him back in the building. And the reason we would love to get him back in the building is, do we know who our left tackle is? I know bringing in Tyler Biadasz, we have Nick Allegretti, we have Sam Cosmi, who's probably one of the best guards in football. He's just ascending. Andrew Wiley is a wily vet. Like, he's been in Super Bowls. Brandon Coleman, is he right now getting penciled in? And can this offensive line protect Jaden Daniels? Should we put Jaden Daniels out there before we know if he actually can have that?
Well, quickly, Justin, we talked about protecting Jaden Daniels with the run game. I think they'll also be protecting the offensive line with the run game. It does sound like it's Coleman early.
Yeah.
Yep, the rookie out of TCU. He's got all the reps there at left tackle, but the problem is he's been dealing with a soft tissue injury. So it's looking like he may get his first crack at NFL left tackle week 1 versus Todd Bowles' Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But as long as we can protect Jaden, the world is his oyster. The quarterback of the football team in DC is as famous as the president here in this area. As long as we can protect him, I think Jaden in the offense that Cliff Kingsbury is going to have him running is going to put him in. He's going to make a lot of fast decisions. The ball's going to be out of his hands quick. He has a fast processing clock. A lot of the reasons we gave a lot of sacks up last year, it wasn't just on the offensive line. Sam Howell processed like a sloth, like he processed in slow motion sometime. Love the guy, but it's the truth of the matter. Jaden Daniels has a plan. He knows where the ball's going before the play starts. And we haven't seen what we're going to be running in the regular season yet, but we got a guy who started almost 60 games in college, more than enough experience. He's not coming in wet behind the ears or raw. Jaden is primed to go. On the offensive line, I think we're going to be solid enough with Biadasz, Cosmi, and Allegretti in the interior that we just need adequate to average play out of the tackles, and we should be good to go.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it definitely, and this is the one thing that I want the fan base to realize too, when we had Kyler Murray as a first overall pick and he was able to run the ball, having the quarterback be a serious threat in the run game allows you to play 11-on-11 football. Typically it's 11-on-10 because the quarterback's not getting involved in the run game. I think you guys will see a lot of what you did with RG3 in 2012. I don't want to bring up any more bad memories. I just saw Jay Gruden the other day. I'm doing some things with Underdog Fantasy with him. But I really think you guys are going to be much more dynamic and not just sitting back there slinging it 50 times. But for the sake of time, I want to keep us moving. Who are we most excited about? Like we talked about Jaden. We are high on Jaden. The check he made in the preseason and threw it down there 42 yards. I think that is a taste of what the offense will look like. But besides Jaden, who are we most excited about that we brought in free agency or the draft?
Frankie Louvu. I was a massive Frankie Louvu fan in Carolina, and I actually predicted Frankie Louvu being one of their targets in free agency because of the way they like to run their defensive scheme. And a lot of people, you talked about Terry McLaurin earlier and how, he's been one of the better players at his position, but because he's played on a really poor team in a bad organization, he hasn't gotten the kind of shine that his talents merit. Frankie Louvu is very similar in that coming from Carolina, you don't really know what he's been out there doing, but this guy's a dog. I mean, a straight dog. And you're going to see him unleashed this season. I've got him as a Pro Bowl player this year, possibly all pro, depending on how well the defense plays and if we can create some of those turnovers. But I think he is going to be a beast this upcoming season. Can't wait to watch him on the football field in the burgundy and gold.
Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne played 80% of the snaps last year. 80%. The influx of talent with Newton coming in, I think, is huge for both those guys. And I'm interested to see Armstrong. They didn't ask him to do a whole lot in the preseason, but that was their big money acquisition. I mean, they brought in Louvu, and I'm with you, Louie, that I think he may be the most impactful of the guys that they brought in. But the guy they paid the most money to and gave a couple years on the contract was Dorrance Armstrong. And they got rid of all the ends they had. So he's got shoes to fill, and I'm interested to see what he'll look like.
Rio, that was a great point you brought up, Doug. Letting guys like Montez Sweat, I know you are we more disappointed in losing Montez Sweat, I think, than Chase Young?
Definitely Montez
without
Sweat,
question.
because Chase Young was all flash and no actual production.
And then how do we feel about replacing them? Like the Cowboys fans mentioned this to me, like those were our backups. That's what they were thinking. Hey, you guys took our backups and paid our back. We didn't lose our starters. We lost our backups.
You know what I say to that? The production is around the same. Like Dorrance Armstrong was the backup and put up 8 sacks last year. That's usually what our leading sack getter gets on the edge for this team. Montez Sweat got his first double-digit sack season because he got to Chicago and put up a bunch of sacks. He was on pace to do it here anyway. Chase was on pace to do the same, but they weren't giving us world-beater production in the sack department. Dorrance Armstrong, we're paying him, 15 a year? We're paying him $15 million a year for 3 years. He was our priority signing, like Doug said. I think the defense is going to be fine. Lou took my answer. For Frankie Louvu is who I'm most excited to see. I'm going to go with old reliable Terry McLaurin, someone who in his 6th season is going to have his 6 different starting quarterback to start the season. He's played for now 11 starting quarterbacks in 6 years and has still managed to put up 5,300 yards and 25 touchdowns. This guy so deserves to play with a quarterback that can consistently give him the ball. I would love to see what a year of getting the correct amount of target shares from an accurate quarterback looks like. A 13 or 1,400 yard season if we throw the ball enough. Terry deserves it more than anyone in this organization. As an ambassador for this team, I don't want to see anything more than to see Terry get the type of attention he should get as our wide receiver one.
And he will get it because Cliff gets guys open. There's one thing. There's no one better. And maybe there's a few guys that are in the conversation, but there is really no one better at getting guys open than Cliff Kingsbury. Terry, I mean, I'm not doing the fantasy or anything, but if you were doing fantasy, I would, you sneak him in there in one of the top few rounds there.
He's going late too. You can sneak him in off the late. Yeah.
I'll throw in Mike Sainristil as well.
Ooh.
The rookie nickel corner who he's a dog too. And I loved him coming out of Michigan. Yes, indeed. And in this defense where, ball is life, they preach turnovers. He is one of the guys that I think can get his hands on the football quite a bit.
All right, 2 more names. Are we going to miss Jahan Dotson?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, Rio.
You want me to start with it?
Doug.
No,
Okay,
you don't have to
so-
go too crazy in depth. We're gonna miss him.
I'm not going to go too crazy in depth. We're going to miss him because our cupboard is bare right now. Like, other than Terry McLaurin, there's not one thing in that room that you're sure about. Like, Olamide Zaccheaus is your next highly heralded receiver in the room, and then De'Ami Brown. So we're going to miss.
De'Ami Brown, come on. De'Ami Brown was making some plays in the preseason.
I need it. I need it. If he's going to start, I need it. Yeah. So we're going to miss the potential of what Jahan was going to bring to us. But
is Adam Peters a little blind? Does he see McCaffrey and just think he's got Christian, or is his brother going to go out there and make some plays for you?
Look, at the end of the day, it was a trade for the culture more than anything else. We heard reports that his body language wasn't good at practice, and he isn't a physical receiver. He wasn't coming out of Penn State
at all.
They've preached physicality from day one. They've lauded and praised guys who have showcased physicality. He has not been one of them. Part of the reason De'Ami Brown was even in that number 2 spot was because of his ability to block and be physical in the run game down the field. They threw 2 wide receiver screens in the direction of Jahan Dotson as the lead blocker in the preseason. Both were blown up because his guy made the tackle. It frustrated them to no end. You couple the fact that he just wasn't producing at the level that they wanted him to. And yes, it leaves a void because no other receiver outside of Terry McLaurin had more than 17 catches last year amongst the group that's remaining. None of them had more than 190 yards receiving last year's season outside of Terry McLaurin. So once again, you're looking for guys to produce who haven't really done it at a high level outside of Olamide Zaccheaus. And we're talking about what, 590 yards in his best season in 2022?
Doug, how about the waiver wire, Doug? I mean, we got the second waiver wire here. Do we think there's a guy like a Noah Brown in Houston or John Mechie, who a lot of people are saying looks unbelievable in camp? They got a deep wide receiver. Is there a guy, Rio, if you got someone, hop in, but are there some names out there that I think we add to the receiver room?
Well, I'm assuming they let Brown go so that they'll give Mechie more opportunities. Yep. I would have been interested in Mechie. I think they definitely will be looking at the corner and the wide receiver market for those early picks that they have. But it could be they're willing to go young. You know, they've had McCaffrey in the slot for a lot of the preseason, and it could be they've just decided they've got this young nucleus and they'll roll with it. But I do think that either corner or wide receiver is where they'll look for those first picks.
I'll give you 2 names. Tim Patrick, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos.
Sounds like they've worked that out for Detroit.
Yes.
He's going to Detroit.
Okay. I knew that was
R.I.P. Tim Patrick. He's gone.
I got a guy. That was a guy that I was interested in, although he was coming off of a couple of knee injuries. I always was a Tim Patrick fan. And then Terrace Marshall. Panthers released Terrace Marshall, former LSU Tiger.
What we say about LSU?
Hey, look, man, he was part of those Burrow boys in 19 that lit it up and went undefeated and won the national championship. I've seen him play. He hasn't been super impressive in Carolina, but they asked him, I think, to be more than what he is. You bring him to Washington, you're probably asking him to be the third, 4th best option, maybe, kick the tires on a guy with a ton of talent, some size, something that we don't have at receiver. Just a couple of names that kind of tickled my fancy a bit, but it'll be interesting to see, what waiver wire claims they put in.
And Zaccheaus has never got Zaccheaus has never really gotten like second wide receiver looks.
Right.
I really like the idea of him being out there a bunch and actually getting an opportunity.
Yeah.
You talk about physicality. You talk about why the 49ers apparently weren't interested in Jahan Dotson, because if you can't block, you're not going to play in a Shanahan system. Zaccheaus, to me, was a Debo type guy when he came out of college. So I'm interested to see if they actually use him like that in Washington.
Yeah, my name I was watching out for was Donovan Peoples-Jones as a good size. He could start for us. He could literally start for you at 6'2". He's still 25, 26 years old. He's had an 800-yard season before. The Browns have depended on him before. He is as productive as any receiver we have in the room right now. Has good size, has good speed for us. I think he ran just under a 4.5, like a 4.48 or something like that when he came out. He has reliable hands. He can catch and traffic and go up and get it. And we got to add something to the cornerback room. I don't know what it is yet. Maybe a KG veteran like a Rock Ya-Sin, because I believe the Niners let him go today. Bring him in. He started for teams before. Something needs to be added to that cornerback room because that room leaves a lot to be desired. But what I keep preaching to our fans is it is year one of Adam Peters, and he's inheriting one of the league's worst rosters. We can't plug every hole in the first year.
Right. Can't fix everything in 1 year. That's what I've been telling everybody.
Is Eckler going to be Eckler of old?
Yes. Mm-hmm. They love Eckler. Cliff keeps saying, I don't know where this narrative of Austin Eckler has lost a step. You know, last year obviously was a down year. He dealt with injuries. And, you know, I think in the back of his mind, too, he wanted to be traded last offseason. They had that big running back powwow. And I don't think he was willing to put himself out there. You know, if I get a little nick, I'm sitting out, right? Yeah. You guys didn't want to pay me. You didn't want to trade me. So I'm not going to risk my free agency trying to, you know, kill myself to help this team this year when I know you don't want me and you don't value me. So last year was a rough year for him, and he had a really good start to the season last year before he got injured. So he's looked excellent, and I'm excited for that 1-2 punch of Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler. That is going to be so much fun to watch.
Hey, hardest video of all time was when Brian Robinson came out to Many Men. I still to this day, it's the best.
Oh yeah,
it's the best intro of all time.
Yeah.
Goosebumps.
Absolutely.
All right. Yes. Well, I know you guys got to run here in a second, so we're going to dive into the schedule, wins, losses. Tell me as much or as little as you want about them. Some will be pretty straightforward, and then I'll let you guys get to your live streams. I know you got fans that are waiting. So, kicking off the season, we got Tampa Bay coming out the gate. Mm-hmm. Tampa Bay, how are we feeling about it?
Go ahead, Rio.
I think it doesn't look good on paper for us out the gate because Todd Bowles is a really good defensive coordinator, and he is one of the kings of exotic blitz packages and making life hard for a rookie quarterback. But I believe the shock and awe of no one knowing what the 2024 Commanders actually look like right now, because we showed nothing in the preseason. That's why I'm laughing at these advanced analytics people are throwing out. Oh, Cliff's doing his old tricks. He's only lining Terry up on the left. Yeah, because he's going to show his cards in the preseason, guys. I think we're going to come out and beat Tampa to start the season off. I think it's going to be a close game. I think we're going to go down there and win by a field goal at the end, and Jaden Daniels is going to make his name known off rip. I think we're going to win.
This feels like shock and awe. That's what we call the Robert Griffin III 2012 season opener on the road at New Orleans. So it's kind of like deja vu, right? On the road against an NFC South opponent where there aren't many expectations. You've got the number 2 pick overall in the draft starting for you as a rookie. Again. You got an unheralded offensive line going up against a team that you shouldn't beat, theoretically speaking. And all the, you know, there's no pressure on us going into this game.
None.
I feel like the difference is going to be who takes care of the football. You have a rookie quarterback going up against a veteran in Todd Bowles, and you expect them to rattle his cage a bit. But one thing Jaden showed us in college and throughout his entire career, not just at LSU, but also at ASU, he doesn't turn the ball over a lot, right? 50 touchdowns he accounted for last year and only 4 interceptions. So I look at Baker and I'm like, hey, Baker, you look at his career, good year, bad year, good year, bad year. Well, he had a great year last year. He might be due for a stinker this year. All right. I'd love to get him started off on the right foot there. And if this defense can create some turnovers, win the turnover battle, I think we can go in there and sneak one. I like us in that game as well.
Well, I'll round it out. Rio was on the channel last night. We did the record preview. Sure we all picked a stunner against the Buccaneers. I like this team to be around 500. I mean, to me, they can be as low as 6 wins, maybe as high as 9 or 10. If they're in games, if they're fighting, if they're improving as the year goes on, I think that's what this fan base needs to look for. Again, we're not going to fix it all in year one, but if they're out, and I think they're going to be a fun team to watch, and I think they're going to be hard outs because of the defense. So that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I think I'm with you guys. I think they kind of come in and shock the system a little bit. I think the NFC South is weak this year. I think you guys get that first one because the one thing about Bowles is he won't have seen what Jaden Daniels is going to bring to the table. There's going to be some X factor that he's going to bring to the table. And Kyler Murray, and I just keep referring to it because of Cliff and the highly ranked quarterback and explosive offense, caught a lot of people by surprise. And at some point during the season, there's going to be a lull where teams start to figure it out, and it's going to be how he responds depending on how you guys do this year. Right. So I'm going to win with you too out the gates. New York Giants, I'll lead it off. I got my Giants getting a win there. I got you guys losing that one.
I don't know if you believe that, though. I don't know if you believe it in your heart of hearts, man.
Hey, you know that Giants defensive line is not a good matchup for anyone that's trying out new tackles. This guy, Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence, I watched them KO people out of games. And I think they're going to create turnovers. They're going to be good against the run. Look, I mean, I'm a little bit of a homer too, but you might get one later in the season. I just think this first one, the Giants won't be asleep at the wheel because you're going to come out and beat Tampa Bay. So you're like, oh shit, we better be on our P's and Q's. That's my thought.
I think the Giants are overdue for an ass whooping, not just a win.
A bad win.
We've lost to Daniel Jones more. Like, Daniel Jones is awful against the division and excellent against us. He's played some of his best games against us for some unknown reason. Well, that stops now because Dan Quinn owns Daniel Jones. And I really feel like he's going to be able to continue to dominate Daniel Jones and that Giants team. I'm interested to see what Shane Bowen does out there. I'm not a massive Shane Bowen fan. I actually thought Wink Martindale did a really good job considering the circumstances, but I mean, it is what it is.
They're button heads. You saw he ran out of that building.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
About to throw hands.
Yeah. I mean, I loved the Giants' Hard Knocks. It was excellent. Like, even more so than the training camp, right? You get to see the process, right?
So toxic.
It was so much fun watching that. But
y'all messed up for that one. Well, you know what? Based on what you guys did in the beginning of the show, you actually deserve to see a little bit of that. So I'll give it to you. You guys actually deserve that. The Eagles fans and Cowboys fans, they did not just get to deserve to watch that.
Yeah. Look, man, when you've been down as bad as we have, it's always great to see another team that is just
Louie
as
Tee,
miserable
messed up, man.
It was awesome to see.
This is the see a lot of that.
This is the biggest smile I've seen for the entire. This is the happiest you've been. You're messed up. All right, I got to get you guys out of here. We got 8 minutes. Rio Giants. What are we doing? You guys beating them? I say I'm on the team now.
We're not only exactly, because you actually want to root for us. You're feeling it. You're smiling. We got to get you some burgundy and gold gear while we're here, by the way.
My boys are down there. Zach Ertz, when he played for the Cardinals, he lived in my guest house for a few weeks. I am cheering for Zach. I am cheering for Cliff. I am cheering for Bobby Johnson.
Have them fly you out and put the colors on. Come on down to Northwest Stadium.
Yeah.
Look. Hey, look. You might as well just go ahead and cheer for the whole team. You got all those boys there. O-line Bobby Johnson's there too, man. Just go ahead and cheer for the Burgundy.
You got enough connections. Who knows? You may work your way onto the staff one day. You never know. Get your foot in the door, Justin. But I'm letting you know right now, we're sweeping the Giants this year. We're not just beating you at home.
Then we don't have to cover them the next time. Doug, are we starting out 2-0? We're starting out 2-0. All right.
It's going to get a little rocky from there, but we're definitely sweeping them now.
Yeah.
All right. Cincinnati. We can all agree. Loss.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys got to stream.
So I'm going to tell you.
We don't got to waste time. Louie Tee, you got to stream. You got to get to.
Look, I'm just going to tell you this. We're going to be competitive in just about every single game, including that
Absolutely.
one.
Run the ball, play defense.
But we're not going to win the game.
It's going to be on prime time too. That's the world's first look at Jaden Daniels. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
You're going to get a good eye on T. Higgins though. You guys,
yes, we will.
That's what you'll watch that game.
Yeah.
All right, I'll move it on. I'll keep it moving. At Arizona.
Dub.
Mm-hmm. I like a win.
3-1. We're starting 3-1. Mm-hmm. Kyler Murray in that offense, I'm telling you, looks real. The defense, I'm real questionable.
Harrison's a dog.
It's going to be if the Cardinals can score, it's going to be a good fight.
That's a loss.
I got Arizona. I think Kyler's coming for everybody this year. He's confident too.
Yeah, he's definitely on another level right now, and we are terrible in Arizona. We struggle there.
We are. That was the old us though, Lou.
I hope that's the God honest truth.
Cleveland, L.
Cleveland's got a good defense.
Cleveland's good, man. If Watson can even be okay this year, they're going to be.
Shit. I don't think he can be.
Okay, put in Jameis. Put in Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Put in any other quarterback. Yeah. Joe Flacco took them to the playoffs last year. They got so much talent.
Yeah, we're not ready for that yet.
I don't know, Doug.
Oh, I like this to be an interesting game. I'm not convinced on the Browns.
So what do you have? Commanders win or lose?
I've got Commanders winning.
Okay.
Oh my God.
At Baltimore, we got the
L.
DMV battle.
That's an L.
L.
I think that's an easy loss.
Lamar versus Jaden gonna be fun though.
Yeah.
Louie Tee just closed his eyes and shook his head. All right, I'll keep it moving. Don't want to mess with morale. Carolina.
Dub.
Win.
Yeah.
For sure win.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago. Montez
that-
Sweat revenge game.
Ooh.
We owe them too.
We owe them
So
so that I got a list, right? I got a revenge tour list. Ooh, they are almost at the top of the damn list, boy. What they came in and did to us last year, that's criminal in 32 states.
Oh, it is. It's
We
the,
owe
And Caleb
them.
Jaden, this is the next
this is the
20-year
one
matchup.
This is the matchup.
I thought they were going to put this one on prime.
I was going to say, amazing to me this in a primetime game.
It's because they gave us a rest because on 2 years in a row, it's been
right.
nasty. They
Yeah.
did us dirty on Jeff Bezos' app. I was there. It was the blackout game.
Yeah.
It was on national TV. And by the end of the first quarter, I was walking around the mezzanine for 3 hours.
Yeah, it was bad. It was so bad.
Doug, who wins it?
I like the Bears defense. I think the Bears win this one.
You think Montez Sweat gets a little revenge? All right. Giants, week 9 at New York.
I got them beating the Giants both times.
Sweep. I'm going
Nah.
sweep. I'm going sweep the other way, man. It's NFC East.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I mean, it easily could be one way or the other. It could easily go 1-1 or sweep. We're not really
we lose that one.
Okay.
The Meadowlands have been a house of horrors for us.
Pittsburgh.
MetLife.
Dang, did I pick a loss? I picked a loss just
Really?
because Mike Tomlin. Like
Yeah.
their quarterback situation does not scare me at all. But Tomlin's defense is gonna make this one of those mucked up, ugly games with like a 17-14 type score. We're gonna lose off the strength of the morale of the Steelers and Mike
TJ
Tomlin.
Watt will get like a strip sack.
I'm about to say
touchdown.
who's gonna block TJ Watt? Like they gonna have to double team him the entire game. He going up against Andrew Wiley the entire game. Yeah, I'll take the Steelers.
I have you guys winning that one. All right.
I got
I
us
was
winning
one.
that one, too.
All right, Doug. Come on, we're sticking together on that one. I think Steelers are going to throw a lot of picks. I don't know. I'm not feeling good, and they're going to start turning on both quarterbacks by that time. And you're going to be riding the high. You're going to be riding the high in week 11. You're going to go into Philadelphia and whoop their ass because you guys play the Eagles tougher than anyone in the NFC East. I got week 11
Not
win.
in prime
Commanders.
time, though.
We managed to lose, but we do play them. We play them real tough, though.
It's in Philly. No one's going to give you a shot. I got you guys winning.
Yeah, no, we're gonna win that game. That's just like the one 2 years ago
With Heineke?
With Heineke, when we went in there when they were undefeated and beat them. I like that spot for us. I've always felt good about us in Philadelphia. Of all the road stadiums in the division,
Which you
the
should.
Eagles
That stadium's crazy.
It's crazy, and it's the one place that we go and play the best football on the road. We get destroyed in Dallas, and we usually play horrible in New York, but not with the Eagles. When we go to I'm about to call it the Vet. When we go to the Link,
I know.
we usually play really well. Even if we don't win, we play really well.
I got an L here.
I got an L here, too.
All right, maybe we're a little high in the sky. All right, next one we got week 12, Dallas at home.
At home, I like us to win that game.
I got a lot of W's early on in the schedule. This is when it starts to catch up a little bit. I got us losing this one. We could talk about the one we have on week 18 when we get there, though.
I don't even know what's going on here. I feel like I've said win too many times already, so I got to slow down.
You got to slow down. You definitely got to slow down. I mean, that's a loss.
Next
That's
thing
a
you know,
loss
it's
all
going to
day.
be 11-6 or something crazy.
I'm trying to
like
keep
that.
to my predictions I made last night on Doug's show.
I know. I
right.
look mine up.
At Tennessee.
I
Dub.
got a win here. Tennessee doesn't scare me much.
I like what they did this offseason. They did a lot for Will Levis, but who is Will Levis? He's the most not talked about second-year quarterback I've ever seen.
I like our chances in that game.
I like your chances too, but I just, I'll ride with you guys. I'll ride the win on that one. Then we got a bye. I like this bye late in the season. Let you recoup, and we come out and we got New Orleans, NFC South.
Oh, that's the worst team in the NFL this year. I think this is
Close.
I think Dennis Allen is going to be podcasting by midseason, and I think Spencer Rattler is going to be playing football by like week 8. Yes,
Spencer Rattler, he's a starting quarterback. You think Derek Carr is not going to be?
I think they're going to blow it up because I think Allen's going to get fired. They stink. Like that's a bad football team. I don't think enough people realize it.
I'm with you on that. I think you beat him. Louie Tee, same thing.
I got a W here.
Yeah, I told you I got to slow down. I don't know what I feel like I've said dub too many times. I got to slow down. I don't.
Yeah, we're all taking the fool's goal right now. We got.
I'm not gonna get myself into trouble this year.
It's the burgundy tinted lenses, Lou.
Doug, what'd you say, Doug? We started.
I've got a win against the Saints.
Okay, I mean, I went win 2. Shit, you guys got me going crazy.
See, you gonna mess around? You gonna look up like, damn, I got 10 and 7.
Hold on.
He gonna pick us to get swept by the Giants, but win 11 games.
Yeah. All right, the last 3 games are tough.
All right,
that's gonna be.
I got them losing out.
I got them losing out too. I got Philadelphia. They're gonna come back for vengeance. They're gonna get beat you guys, right?
I got us losing 2 and then beating Dallas because Dallas is resting starters in week 18. Or we just catch them lacking, and that's our morale go into season 2 with 8 wins on a high horse note. So either way, we're going to beat Dallas to end the season because we lost to them.
And Atlanta, you think is just no shot in Atlanta?
I think Atlanta's going to be playing for something. They're going to be playing for one of the higher seeds in the NFC. I think it's going to be a really good football team.
I got them winning the NFC South too. All right, so we're losing out to end the year. Big Doug, what do you have him at?
That puts me at 9 and 8, which I did not beforehand. I said this on the pod yesterday. I really was trying to get it like 6 or 7. I always end up at like 9.
8 9, baby.
But I think it's doable.
All right, Rio, you're 8 and 9.
Yes, sir.
Louie Tee, what are you? 11 and 4. What are we at?
Yeah, see, that's why I stopped. So I've already told myself 7 and 10. I got to figure out how we get there because I'm telling you, we're going to be in games and we're such a young team and it's the cohesiveness is just not there yet. And then we got a kicker where we just don't know what we're going to get. And if you're going to win close games, you need your kicker to be on top of things. So
unfortunate situation. Then what happened? We don't got to get into the kicker situation. You lost your kicker. You traded for a kicker. I got you guys at 7 and 10. Mm-hmm. You guys are going to be competitive, man. I think this is a foundational season. The future is bright. You guys have sold me. I'm like the arrow next to the Commanders is pointing up. I got to learn the hashtag. I got to come support my guys out there. I got to get out to a game. You guys got to get to a stream. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you guys want to leave the fans with? You can see I'm going to plug all your channels. Is there anything else you guys want to do before signing off?
Just want to thank you for the invite on the show, buddy.
Absolutely.
I second that for having us, man. Thank you for welcoming us on your platform and bringing some burgundy and gold cheer to your channel, man.
This was amazing. I had a blast. Louie Tee, next time we'll give you the full story before it's like, yo, 6:30, be on this podcast. And you're like, yo, what the hell is going on? All right, man.
I really appreciate you, man.
What's the sign off like? The Eagles have the Go Birds, Dallas Cowboys Nation. It's hail
to them, man. Oh, raise hell.
Raise hell, baby.
And Dan Quinn helped pick that too. He started something new here.
All right. I know you guys got to go get on a stream. Everybody, like I said, follow, like, subscribe, do all the things you're supposed to do because these are real football takes. We're getting real football takes from real fans who know this shit inside and out. You got who's going to be the players to look out for. Everything Commanders, you know where it's at. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Jaden Daniels is coming, by the way.
What did you say?